Cowboy was the one who invented the term hip hop?
Yeah, yeah. Because a cowboy saying hip hop, and then they would call it hip hop shit.
He literally named an entire culture. Robert Keith Wiggins, known to the world as Keef Cowboy, gave hip-hop its very name. But this pioneer story ends in a horrible tragedy. He died of a drug overdose in 1989. Robert Keef Cowboy Wiggins was just 28 years old, a foundational figure who tragically developed a severe cocaine addiction in his final 2 years. The ultimate irony is that he helped create one of the most famous anti-drug anthems in music history. This is the sad, cautionary tale of a legend's final chapter. Robert Keith Wiggins stands as one of the most crucial, yet often overlooked, foundational figures in hip-hop. Born on September 20th, 1960, in the Bronx, New York City, his career was defined by his membership in the legendary group Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. He was recruited by his close friend, Joseph Sadler, better known as DJ Grandmaster Flash. The group formed in the South Bronx in 1978 and quickly became pioneers in breakbeat DJing and conscious lyricism. In the early days of Grandmaster Flash's operation, Wiggins was known internally as the crowd pleaser. Before the full group of MCs was established, Cowboy was Flash's first true MC. His initial job was critical to developing the performance model. He served as a dancer and, most importantly, as a hype man. This role was specifically designed to get the crowd excited during a performance. Melle Mull said that Cowboy was the first to grab Flash's microphone and engage the audience. This made him the earliest established figure in what later became formalized as MCing. The earliest version of the MC role, as pioneered by Cowboy, prioritized kinetic energy and immediate crowd connection over complex lyrical structure. This shows that the absolute beginning of MCing was fundamentally less about advanced poetic skill and overwhelmingly more focused on raw energy, physical stage presence, and the immediate, powerful control of the audience. This was the very style Cowboy invented. His most lasting legacy, aside from coining the genre's name, lies in his pioneering use of the call and response performance style in hip-hop. This technique involved the performer delivering a phrase or request to which the audience would reply. He utilized this method to ensure everyone felt more involved in the show. He frequently shouted impromptu phrases designed to provoke collective reaction, such as "say ho" or "all the sexy ladies," "say ow." These basic commands formed the structural bedrock of the performance style utilized by almost every MC since the 70s. The immediate adoption of the call and response mechanism shows how fundamentally the genre was designed to be a communal experience. Cowboy's stylistic innovation instantly broke the traditional fourth wall between performer and spectators, establishing a deeply communal, participatory dynamic. Now, let's talk about how he literally named the culture. Keef Cowboy is widely and by many accounts universally credited with inventing the term hip-hop around 1978. This single linguistic innovation provided the sprawling cultural phenomenon originating in the Bronx with its definitive, enduring name. The specific event occurred when Cowboy was teasing a friend who had recently enlisted in the United States Army. To mock the friend, Cowboy engaged in scat singing, repeating the made-up words hip hop in a way that deliberately mimicked the rhythmic cadence of marching soldiers. He then integrated this specific hip-hop cadence into his live stage performances. This derivation of the term from a rigid, highly disciplined military rhythm presents a deep historical irony. Hip-hop culture, born of spontaneous DJ improvisation and the raw, often chaotic energy of street parties, found its name in the mockery of an ordered, almost robotic routine. While the story of Keef Cowboy and the marching cadence remains the most popular explanation for the term's origin, there is a parallel narrative involving contemporary pioneer Kevin "Lovebug" Starsky Smith. However, Cowboy, as the primary MC, formalized the phrase and integrated it into the structure of a live, repeatable stage performance. Because Cowboy converted the phrase from a spontaneous joke into a standardized performance element, it was his incorporation that ultimately won the historical authority for naming the culture. The term was popularized immediately by the Sugar Hill Gang in their breakthrough 1979 single, Rapper's Delight. The period between 1980 and 1982 marked the commercial peak for Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. After signing with Sugar Hill Records by 1980, the group quickly gained prominence with their first hit, Freedom. Their fame reached mainstream levels with the 1982 release of The Message. This track represented a watershed moment for the genre, shifting its thematic focus from boastful chants toward deep political and social commentary. This success enabled the group to tour extensively with established acts such as Rick James and the Commodores. Did you know the true depth of the group's struggles? If you're fascinated by these untold stories of hip-hop's pioneers, make sure to subscribe to this channel, drop a comment below, and tell me what you think about how the group's street code of justice failed against corporate exploitation. Despite their artistic and commercial achievements, the group was torn apart by severe internal disputes over creative direction and, critically, royalties. These conflicts centered on widespread financial exploitation by Sugar Hill Records, a common issue that characterized the early, unregulated music business of the era. Grandmaster Flash began questioning publishing and royalties and encountered immediate resistance from label executives, suggesting unfair compensation. The fundamental exploitation was later confirmed when the faction that left Sugar Hill signed with Elektra Records. At Elektra, they were granted all the things we were supposed to get at Sugar Hill, including publishing money, writing credit, and mechanical royalty. These elements were absent on their Sugar Hill contracts. The legal break was accelerated by the success of The Message. Flash found that even though he and the Full Furious Five had minimal involvement in the recording of the track, it was heavily advertised under their group name. The dispute eventually led to Mel Mel also recognizing that they were being exploited, resulting in the permanent split of the original group. The group formally broke into two separate entities in 1983. Keef Cowboy, Mel Mel, and Scorpio chose to remain with Sugar Hill Records, continuing under the name Grandmaster Mel Mel and the Furious Five. Meanwhile, Grandmaster Flash, Kid Creole, and Raheem signed with Elektra, seeking better financial terms. Cowboy's alignment with Mel Mel and Scorpio was artistically significant, as this faction recorded several key tracks. Most notably, they released the monumental anti-drug anthem, White Lines, Don't Do It, in 1983. This period is marked by a profound tragedy and irony. Cowboy was a core contributor to White Lines, one of hip-hop's most influential public condemnations of drug abuse. Yet sources definitively confirmed that he developed a severe cocaine addiction during the final 2 years of his life, approximately 1987 through 1989, dying ultimately from an overdose. The fact that an architect of the culture who participated, recording a seminal anti-drug statement, would later succumb to the very addiction the track cautioned against shows a devastating consequence of the intense pressures inherent in early fame and the exploitative recording environment. Within the highly competitive and often physically dangerous early hip-hop environment, Cowboy was recognized as a fiercely loyal and protective force. Melle Mel explicitly described him as definitely the backbone of the group. His loyalty showed practically through his willingness to enforce fairness on behalf of the group, particularly regarding payment. Historical accounts indicate that Cowboy often started physical fights with concert promoters to get the group paid their fair share. His sister said that when promoters didn't want to pay, Cowboy would handle that. This dangerous dedication is backed up by an event where he received 76 stitches in a stabbing incident related to his protective role. This characteristic reveals a deeper layer to the group's collapse. Cowboy was skilled at securing justice through direct action on the street level. However, the real cause of the group's breakup, the missing publishing rights and mechanical royalties dictated by complex contracts at Sugar Hill Records, was an invisible, systemic form of corporate exploitation. The group's street-honed code of justice was utterly powerless against the complexity of music industry contract law. Cowboy's dangerous methods of protection, while loyal and fierce, ultimately failed. When it mattered most, he could fight promoters, but he couldn't fight contracts. This failure would contribute to the group's downfall and the spiral that would eventually consume him. The career of Robert Keith Wiggins was tragically cut short. He died on September 8, 1989, just days before his 29th birthday at the age of 28. The cause of his death was definitively identified as a drug overdose. Multiple sources confirmed that Cowboy had been addicted to cocaine during the final 2 years of his life, spanning approximately 1987 to 1989. Cowboy's death occurred during a difficult period for the pioneers of old-school hip-hop. The original Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five had attempted a brief reunion between 1987 and 1988, resulting in the album On the Strength, His death occurred only a year after this final attempt. The early death of a pivotal cultural architect at 28 shows the immense, unsustainable pressures that led to early tragedy for the genre's earliest stars. A notable absence exists regarding extensive public details concerning the specifics of his struggle during his final 2 years. This suggests that the personal struggles of pioneers regarding addiction and mental health were frequently overlooked or intentionally hidden in the relentless drive toward new commercial output. The story ends in tragedy, but Robert Keith Wiggins is an essential architect of hip-hop. He leaves a dual legacy of innovation and caution. His influence is inseparable from the genre's genetic code. Every time the term hip-hop is used, or every time an MC uses a participatory chant, his legacy is being activated. Grandmaster Flash acknowledged him as the first member he recruited. Melle Mel described Cowboy as the backbone of the group. Perhaps the most powerful acknowledgement of his enduring legacy came 9 years after his death. Cowboy is explicitly referenced in the 1998 song In Memory Of by Gang Starr. This track ensures that even if commercial history pushed him aside, the core community of artists who inherited the culture remembered and honored his foundational role. Robert Keith Wiggins is both the linguistic architect who gave the culture its name and the cautionary figure whose life was taken by the very societal issues made worse by the exploitative pressures of the early music business that his group attempted to criticize through their most famous records. He invented a performance style that every MC still uses today. He named the culture, but he also paid the ultimate price for being a pioneer in an industry that didn't protect its creators. Keef Cowboy deserved better. His story is a reminder that the foundations of hip-hop were built on the backs of those who sacrificed everything, often without receiving the recognition or compensation they earned. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and share this video. Let's make sure his name is never forgotten. Rest in power, Keef Cowboy.